welcome to Gentle Yoga at the ACC. We're here at the community room for noontime yoga with Jeani. Hi, that's me. I'm your host for the next hour. We are focusing on getting a little bit of warm-up at the beginning of class, working the major muscle groups, joints and whatnot during our walking meditation, our balance, and our cool-down portions of the class as well. So we've been focusing on poses that help us with our balance. So if you have a strap, you can use that if that helps you when we go to lift a leg up. If it's something that you're still working on, it helps sometimes to use that strap. We're also going to be moving into poses from chair as well as from our regular traditional mat area. So having those things in mind, you might want to keep some blocks nearby with the chair portion. If, for instance, you like to do the lunge, you can do them traditionally with the blocks as we step from a fold or a standing position, you know, with the leg back. But as I demonstrated last week, you can also do a lunge from the chair to help you support the body until you can strengthen those muscles needed to support you in a full traditional version of a low lunge. So anyhow, that being said, we will just go through that as it comes into the practice. So that's why that chair is here. And in the meantime, we will start at the back of the mat. So let's go ahead and just arrive. As you're standing at the back of the mat, you don't really change the quality of your breath. You just allow yourself to breathe. You might notice how the mat feels under the feet. If your legs are tight, keep a gentle bend to the knees. But in this home base pose of mountain, we're lengthening the legs as we move along, lengthening the spine, hopefully returning to mountain each time, just a little longer, a little taller. So as we begin to cultivate our breath, let's bring our left palm to rest on the chest, right palm under the belly button. And with a little more intention, begin your breath cycles. Inhaling with a little more control. Notice the air filling the lungs, the chest expanding. At the top of that inhale, just a slight pause before you start your slow, controlled exhale. And as we're beginning with the breath, you don't always have to do it on cue, on beat. Sometimes it takes a couple of breaths just to start that initial breath cycle. So as we finish up, let's bring the sound of the ocean to the back of the throat, opening up the space above the voice box. Feel the air rushing over the glottis. And hopefully the sound of your breath cycle is akin to a wave. Let's go ahead and bring our hands down to our sides. Just give ourselves a nice little roll from the heels to the toe for a moment. Ungrip the mat if you need. We'll reset our mountain. Inhaling nice and tall. Imagine drawing energy from the feet, up the legs, through the spine to the crown of the head and beyond. And on the exhale, feel that energy returning, reverse order, down, back the body towards the earth. With the next inhale, we can start to tip the body's center of gravity towards the toes. Feel that edge of tipping, and then use the next breath. Slowly use the center of gravity, shifting towards the heels to find that edge. And as you inhale and exhale, slowly find that heel to toe alignment and muscle mapping, just to get that idea. And we'll return to a center that feels like it's over the ankles, near to the heels. Drop on in, inhale, lengthen through your mountain just a little more. And as we're uplifting, just go ahead, exhale, roll the weight towards the outer right edge of your feet. The body is still upright, but we're just going to move on over to the edge. Fully exhaled, we can inhale back up to center or all the way to the other side. Inhaling to the center, exhaling to either side is a 3-part breath, but just breathing from side to side is the 2-part breath that you can use to identify that mapping from left to right at the soles of the feet. And we will once more return to center, somewhere above the ankles. Inhale nice and tall. Feel that uplift. Maybe the mountain is just a little taller this time. Go ahead and start making circles while you're still feeling uplifted. We're making small circles at the ankles. They're radiating outward, getting bigger to kind of explore the soles of the feet until we can reach the perimeter of the feet, the very edge, all around. And then we can tighten in the circles at the soles of the feet and return once more to about where the ankles are. Back to our mountain once more. Inhale, reset. And small circles in the opposite direction, but once more, radiating at the ankles towards the edge of our feet, the perimeter. And notice how it feels. Even though you may have the same path, a different direction may garner a completely different experience. So we'll go ahead and return to center. And go ahead and reset. Give yourself a lifting. Sometimes I just grip the mat so much, I like to lift my foot completely off of the mat and set it back down. Give yourself a jiggle, a bounce, reset. Deactivate anything that was still from that last pose. We're going to go ahead and move on up the body. Now, just keeping the feet a little bit wider than the hips distance, we're going to start shifting our weight. You could just move that weight from foot to foot. Then start bringing in some movement at the shoulders. And as your torso begins to shift counter to the bottom of your body, just make sure that the feet lift. The ball of one foot lifts up. As you pivot on the heel, if you start swirling from side to side, swaying, turning, the arms may make motions that are not really intended, but just, the arms relaxed at the side, moving from the momentum generated by the rest of the body. Then you can go ahead and allow that energy to peter out and return to center. We'll go ahead and reset our mountain once more. Feet are hips distance apart. We're going to move on up towards the shoulders. And as we move up the body in our warm-up, see if you can lengthen through your mountain just with a little more intention. Maybe the tailbone can tuck under gently, and you can just slightly press the hips forward, especially if you have a tendency to have a tented hip where you're just sticking out the tailbone a little bit. Let's tuck that under. And as we move to the shoulder stretches, palms are facing forward. Feel that nice rooted sensation at the base of your mountain. Inhale, shoulders go up. At the very top reach of the shoulders, go ahead and relax, and exhale, roll them back and melt them down. Points of the shoulder blades might even tuck into the mid-back at the bottom of the exhale. Engage your core. Inhaling, shoulders go up. Exhaling, shoulders roll back and down. A total of 4 of these for this first set. Let's see if we can use that ocean breath to help facilitate the release. And then the next set, we're lifting the shoulders once more on the inhale, but forward, we're exhaling on a forward roll. Inhale up, shoulders roll forward on the exhale and down, still maybe even tucking into the mid-back at the bottom of the exhale. And after your very last set, we'll go ahead and reset the mountain. Lift the feet, shake out the fingers, the wrists, swaying anything to reset. And inhaling once more in our mountain, nice and tall. Feel as if there's a string at the crown of the head lifting up, a gentle tuck of the chin, and hopefully that's bringing alignment of the ear over the shoulder, over the hips, over the knees, and if you're pressing into all points at the soles of the feet, you should feel that nice, even distribution supporting you at the soles of the feet. Let's go ahead and inhale, lifting up through the crown of the head. Exhale, allow the right ear to dip towards the right shoulder. Left and right shoulders are in one line. Inhaling for length. Exhale, turn the gaze if you haven't already, and release through the left side of the neck. Palms should face forward to help keep the shoulders rotated away from the ears. And see if you can feel that good solid column of support from the heels all the way up to the shoulders. So that by that last exhale, you can find the eyes resting at the rightmost of your periphery. After that, inhale the eyes, the gaze, the crown of the head lifting, completely shining towards the ceiling. So all you have to do is exhale, left ear towards the left shoulders. The left shoulder still has a space between it and the ear. Inhaling deeply, exhale to turn the gaze. Just use the ocean breath to hopefully help facilitate the release to the right side of the neck now. There's about an orange size, a tennis ball size space between the left ear and the left shoulder. And hopefully the left shoulders are still relaxed, melting down the back, but solid, a part of the support system from the shoulders down to the heels. And after that last exhale, go ahead and bring the eyes, the gaze, the crown of the head lifting towards the ceiling. So all you have to do is exhale. Let the eyes float towards the top of the mat. Inhaling here, we're still lifting, feeling that slight tilt of the head, but still a general lifting of the body with the inhale. And the exhale, more rooted, firming, grounding of the body as you exhale, engaging the core at the bottom of that exhale. See if you can release through the back of the neck with each subsequent wave-like breath. And after that last exhale, inhale the eyes back up towards the center, past the midline, towards the ceiling. And here, stop craning the neck once you can see the ceiling, and think about lengthening the body once more, all the way from the feet to the throat. Perhaps there's that space that you can imagine that you're not craning the back of the neck, but there is that opening at the front of the neck. You can open the mouth, a gentle swaying of the jaw, or perhaps a smaller O to a larger O to release the tension in the jawline. See if you can relax the brow as well. And after another inhale and exhale, go ahead and bring the gaze back to center. And back here in mountain, shake out any residual activation of the muscles. Once again, you might find that your legs are nice and tight because they've been supporting you, so you can bounce on them. You can jiggle them. You can give yourself any movement that feels good so that you can release from that last pose. And then we'll start our walking meditation. Inhaling nice and tall in our mountain, reaching downward with our fingers. Extend the arms upward with the inhale. At the top of the inhale, you can even lift up with the torso and press down into the balls of the feet. Lengthen through the fingertips, and then exhale. Engage the core, hinge at the hips. Nice strong back, hinging at the hips, bending the knees if you need. And somewhere halfway down, you can always walk the hands down. Just give your back the space it needs, the upper body, the space that it needs to unfold. Now, if your legs are really tight, a bent knee is going to help you release, and you can lengthen as it feels better. But you might also need to put the forearms on the thighs to keep you supported. Or you could find yourself just floating downward towards your fold, and you're in a deep fold. Our first fold is the ragdoll. It keeps us here at about 5 breath cycles.
So you can do a few things to check out your first major forward fold of the practice. See, are you holding on to your head? You can gently bobble the head from left to right, forward and back. See if you can let gravity use the head like a plumb line. Just let it dangle. If you find that you're tipping forward, bring a little more weight towards the heels. Play with the center at the feet, but keep that center, that column of support from the hips all the way down to the heels, somewhere at the top of the ankles. And hopefully, with a few more breath cycles, a couple more breath cycles, you'll feel some release in the lower back, in the arms, if you can allow them to dangle, and then in the neck. Now we're going to come out of this forward fold with a slow roll up. And very mindfully, we're going to engage our core, press into the feet, firm up the legs, and you can slowly start to push up with the inhale. Engaging the core is key here. You can walk the hands up if you need, but pressing into the feet, engaging that center. And as each vertebra stacks on to the one before, the skull is the last to stack on the neck. Give yourself a breath or two here, just to let the blood rush back to the head. And we'll do that fold one more time. Inhale, engage, fingertips reaching downward, extending the arms upward. At the top, extend all the way from the feet to the arms, and then core is engaged as we hinge at the hips to fold. Exhaling, locking the hands down if we need, but coming down to our second fold. This one's a little shorter, about 3 breath cycles long. And again, you can keep the knees bent. You can sway the hips from side to side. You can alternately bend one knee, straighten it, and then bend one knee and straighten the other. Then when we come out of this one, you can come up with a slow roll up as before, or with a strong straight back. Either way, the core is engaged and you're coming up with a strong inhale. Make your choice, inhaling upwards, hands come up above the head, pressing into the feet to lengthen. Exhale, hands down heart center. Engage the core. Pressing into the palms will bring standing weight to the left side of the body, lift the right foot. Exhale the right foot down. Slow, very steady movements here. Inhaling one foot up, exhaling it down. Find how your center changes as you move with each step. If you find yourself wobbling, pressing into the palms, re-engaging a lost core might help you regain your balance. If you fall out, that's okay. Just come on back. At the top of the mat, we'll meet in mountain. Looking down at the fingertips, inhale, press into the palms, watch them rise. Separate the palms at the top. Exhale, engaged core. Float on down. Walk the hands down if you need. Come into your third fold. Here we're going to just inhale, press into whatever contact you can make to lengthen through the back. Maybe it's forearms to the thighs, hands to the shins. Maybe your palms are on the floor, maybe fingertips, but you're just lengthening from the tailbone to the crown of the head. You might have a 90-degree angle. You might have more of a 15-degree angle. Whatever, you just want to lengthen through the back with that half lift. And then exhale, bend the knees, start to lower to the fold once more. Place the hands at the mat. Start to walk, bending the knees, one foot, maybe a couple of steps back, so that you can inhale now. Shoulders over the wrists, fingers are splayed, and bring down the knees. Untuck the toes, allow the tops of the feet and the shins to support the upper body. If you find that your shoulders are past your wrists, that just happens to me a lot. You can either walk the hands up or lift up the knees and walk the knees back a little bit. That just helps us to focus on the safest position that we can be. If your wrists are sensitive, you can always walk them out a little more so that you're not at a 90-degree angle. Maybe it's a little further back. But your core is engaged from the first start of coming into our modified high plank. And with our next inhale, we're going to tuck the toes, lift up the hips, and exhale, press the hips back. Press into those extended arms, to the palms, to bring yourself into your first down dog. And here you may notice your heels are lifted. That's okay. You want to make sure that your arms and your head are somewhat in line with one another. And keeping the body in an upside down V or U shape, we're eventually lengthening through the legs so that the calves, the hamstrings can lengthen and stretch. And arches and Achilles heels, those as well, with the heels reaching closer towards the mat. Now from that apex of the hips, down the back, down the arms to the palms, that's another direction of energy. We're lengthening. And finally, it's the apex of the hips themselves that are lifting up, while the energy of going down the arms and down the legs are moving in opposition. One more deep inhale. Bend the knees if you need to. And we're going to walk the hands to the back of the mat, to a fold. Keep the knees really bent. Fully exhaled here. We can inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. And inhale. Once more. Get really nice and compact. Engage the core. Step into the feet, the thighs. Inhale. Come on up with a slow roll up or strong, straight back. Hands above the head. Exhale, hands down, heart center. And one more walking meditation. Inhale, right foot up. Exhale it down. Inhale, left foot up. Exhale that down. See if you could hear the ocean at the back of the throat. And at the top of the mat, we'll meet looking down. Inhale, press into the palms, lifting the hands. Exhale, separate the palms, engage the core and hinge at the hips to fold. Fully exhaled at the bottom of the fold. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. Bend the knees, bring the hands down to either side of the feet. Step many steps back if you need. Inhale, shoulders over the wrists, high plank. This time a nice long high plank. We're pressing into the arms. Shoulders are strong, arms are extending, legs are extending. Imagine an energy line from the heels all the way to the crown of the head, and the belly button is sticking to your spine. Engage the core. Inhale, lift up the hips. Exhale, start to press into the arms so we can move into our down dog. Second down dog, separate the feet if you need, a little wider. And if the heels are lifted, that's fine. You can roll, inhale all the way up to the tips of the toes. Slowly roll the feet downward and see where the heels land. Notice if your shoulders are rolling into your ears. We want them externally rotated away from the ears. One more deep inhale, you can lift up through the hips. One more deep exhale, press down through the feet and the arms. And then roll the eyes towards the hands, inhaling deeply. Bend the knees, and we'll go ahead and walk the feet, hands back to the feet. Bending the knees, back to our fold. Fully exhaled here. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, engage the core. Come on up, your choice. Exhale, hands down, heart center, and finally down to the side. And just feel your heartbeat. Couple breaths there. And then great time to have a little water. And we'll move on to a balancing pose. So here, again, if you need a chair nearby, a wall nearby, something nearby, if you have trouble with your balance, that you can just stick your hand out onto something to keep you from tipping over. The one thing I can recommend is to think also about using a block if you have difficulty in lifting the leg or using a strap in the second part where we are going to try to lift the leg or the foot or the sole of the foot just a fraction off of the mat. Those are all movements that will engage the hip flexors that we need. So if you want this strap, you can have it around here. So we're going to start from our mountain, and we're just going to start with finding our balance, if we can do that for an extended period of time. And then the second set, we'll actually try to lift our foot and hold it while we're balancing with a bent knee as well. So standing here, nice and tall in our mountain, see if it can be adjusted, feeling nice and secure, stable. We're bringing standing weight to the left side of the body. So just a subtle shift. I like to initiate it with an inhale, but you could do it with an exhale as well. Just find that stacking of the body over the major joints of the left side. And you might find that you can lift your right heel and not have that center affected. Once that's stabilized, then you can start to move the ball of that foot. You can start to lift maybe less of the heel and just more of the sole of the foot altogether. See if you can just entirely have that balance on one leg. If you have to tap down with the sole of with the ball of the other foot, that's fine. But you're cultivating your balance on one leg. Hopefully you're engaging everything from the left of the glute, the quads, all the way down. And the core is engaged. And then we'll go ahead and bring the right foot down. Slowly regain that balance of support, and then you can bounce, gently do anything that may feel like you're releasing that left side activation. And that can include gently kicking that left standing leg forward and to the same side, the left side, before you cross over the midline. You hopefully will feel a release. And then we'll go ahead and return to our mountain for the other side. Hips distance apart are our feet. Feeling that center, feeling the stacking of the ankle underneath the knee, under the hips, under the shoulders, lifting up through the sternum, gentle tuck of the chin, inhaling, standing away to the right side of the body. Give yourself a few breaths to find that support. What starts out slowly, hopefully our brain creates shortcuts, little synapses that becomes a little easier, just move into it like second nature. But until then, your little move might be a little more boxy until it can smooth out. And as you find you've got that ability to maybe lift this ball of the left foot, maybe the entire sole of the foot, maybe it's just the heel. Whatever you're doing, you're seeing if you can hold that sole of the foot hovering above, or just cultivate some sort of balance on one leg for this short time. If you can stand on your leg for 5 seconds on one leg, apparently that's very good. Alrighty, we'll go ahead and bring the left foot down. Regain balance and deactivate anything that's still firing off on that right side. All right, and then we'll return here. So you can do a number of things. You can start off, I think I had something where we're standing off with a balanced leg and then moving the foot onto the block. If you don't already have good balance, that might be problematic. I apologize for that. Let's start with the block actually underneath the foot. And as we've already practiced balancing on the one foot, we're going to do the same thing. Just imagine your right leg isn't supporting you at all. Standing weight to the left side of the body. And once you get that, then it might be a little easier to just lift up from that point where your hip is already kind of in that flexion. Engage the flexion of that hip now and see if you can hover the foot off of the block. Maybe it'll be the same thing where you're engaging the hip flexor and you just lift the heel. Then maybe the ball of the foot, then maybe the entire foot. And you're actually bending higher at this hip flexor. If you have to touch down, you can. If you have the strap and you want to play with that, you can always put that at the ball of the foot. Try to fire off the muscles that it takes to bring the knee up. And if you can hold it there with the strap, that's great, but see if you can release the strap and still maintain that there. So those are the ways that you can also use a prop, the strap, the block, to cultivate that strength in your hip flexor. We'll go ahead and move the block and bring the right leg down. And regain your balance. Give yourself some movement, slow and steady at first. See if you can release any residual activated muscles on the left side. And we'll move on over to the other foot. So, standing once more and moving the block if that helped you. And if not, you can always just lift the foot without any of your props. Just cultivate your balance. Standing up once more with a good inhale in our mountain. Standing weight to the right leg, right side of the body. Stacking the ankle under the knee, under the hip, under the shoulder. And once that's stable, can you lift that heel? Can you lift the left heel? Can you lift the sole of the left foot? Do you have your foot on the block? And then again, seeing if you can lift up. Sometimes just having that little bit of a head start with the hip inflection, a slight flexion, it just makes it easier. And once you found your edge, we are always just about 3-5 breath cycles away. And if you tap out and you have to come out, you always can. And we've been here for a while. So when you're ready, go ahead and remove the block, remove the straps. Bring balance to both feet slowly before you release any activation of the right leg, right side of the body. Okay, and as we're moving into the halfway mark here, the next pose to think about is also a standing position for balance, and that's our chair. And in this session, let's try this. If you know how to get into chair, I recommend you just do that. If you would like to use this method with the chair itself, I just would like to demonstrate that as well. For some of us, you can feel the hip flexors really supporting our weight in chair. So if you're standing and you want to do a traditional chair, let's go ahead and start from mountain. Hands go up, either at a tangent or completely vertical. Exhale, we're just bringing weight into our heels, into our hips, and once we feel that engagement, we are in control of how much we want to test our body. If you feel more of that support in chair coming from the quads, you need to bring more of the weight towards the hips. You do want the hips to engage, fire the glutes up as well as the quads. And if you're not quite sure where that is, you can always lift up the heels. Lift up the toes to make sure that your heels are supporting you properly. And again, it's that idea of the support is right here at the hips going down to the heels. And if your back is starting to get a little too compressed, just round out. Tuck under the tailbone in your chair, and that'll help if you're starting to find discomfort in the lower back. You can always extend the branches of your arms here, fingers towards the center, and that's just another extension of the challenge of chair. Now here, that's your traditional chair. Breathe for 5 to 10 breath cycles here, and hopefully you're not going to lose the engagement of the glutes. Engage those, keep them there, and breathe. Tuck in the belly button, engaging the core. Now, I'm going to demonstrate with the chair. You can exercise those same hip flexors by simply sitting down on the chair. And make sure you're at the edge, where your hips are near the edge, not way back here at the back of the chair. But you'd be here, your feet are about at a 90-degree angle, and you want to press into the balls of the feet so that you're kind of rocking on your pelvic bowl so you could get up, and here is where you would stay. And here you're going to feel your hip flexors, definitely. And you can support your upper body with hands to the thighs. But that's a different way of engaging the hip flexors as you actually lift up from the chair. And then just stand there, or sit there, in chair, lean there. So as we're here, and if you're in traditional chair, you've been there for a while, we're going to inhale by simply lengthening through the legs. If your arms are up, go ahead and bring them down, heart center, and then bring them down to the side. So if you find that you've been in chair for a while, because I don't know where I left some of you in the chair, go ahead and just jiggle. Give yourself any deactivation. If you're standing, that's just a bounce, a jiggle, a movement to release in the hips. If you're in chair and you got up, we're going to move to the other side and just do the other side, because it's a different way to do that. We'll go into our chair once more. So standing in your traditional chair or getting up from a chair. We're going to inhale. Go ahead, if you're using the chair as a prop, sit down, find your 90-degree angle. If you're standing using your chair, just sink into your center. Feel that out. Use the next few breaths to make sure you find your edge. And here we're going to inhale if you're on the chair, pressing into the feet, into the inner thighs, engaging the core, and sitting up. You're going to feel the heels engage. You're going to feel the balls of the feet engage, perhaps not the toes, and the back of the thighs all the way from the glutes to the hamstrings. And you can, again, use your hands if you need to help stabilize the back if you need, tucking under the tailbone. And you can control how much challenge is given to the body by how deeply you go into your chair. Engage the core. See if you can call up the ocean breath. We're breathing, once we find that edge, for about 5 breath cycles. And keep firing the glutes, the quads, the hamstrings. Keep those muscles in the legs that you need, nothing more. And then we can go ahead and inhale, straighten the legs. Bring that tailbone under, tucking it. Press into the legs, into the balls of the feet so you can lengthen. Feel that lengthen, hopefully open up through the hips. We've been flexed for so long, just simply pressing down into the legs will help us to straighten up. And if your arms are up, hands down, heart center, and then down to the side. So once we're done with chair, we'll move down into, let's see, I believe the next one, let me check my list here. Thank goodness for lists. Butterfly, figure 4 from the mat or the chair. So, if you would like to go into butterfly, come on down onto your sits bone into an easy seated position and move into your butterfly. From chair, if you're in here, and you want to try a butterfly, this is a great way to move into it. If you are getting your hips to open up and trying to move your way down to the floor, we're opening up the hips. You can take some blocks, simply put them in front. And again, your hips are going to be at the edge of the seat here. And you can lift the feet on top of the blocks and start to bring the soles of the feet to touch. Now, if you have to lean back, this is where we need to make our adjustments. Just like when you're on the floor in your butterfly, you might have more of a diamond shape to the knees. And by that, I mean you'll need to bring your legs out, whether you're sitting on the floor or in a chair. You'll need to bring the legs out a little more. Sitting upright in the pelvic bowl is what we're looking for, so that your spine is nice and upright. And your hips then will externally rotate outwards and have that space. So as you bring the soles of the feet closer, you're going to play with how that feels at the shins, around the knees, around the hips. And you have that greater control. The closer your feet are to the groin area, the deeper your butterfly, the wider the hip opener. So just mind that. If you're sitting in a chair, this is a great beginner pose version for butterfly. And as I'm having really tight hip issues, this might be just the way to kind of reintroduce a pose that you're used to anyhow, that you haven't done in a while. So move into it slowly, see how your body is feeling. Much of yoga is just reconnecting to the inner teacher. That's just that conversation with your body's own intelligence. And we'll be sitting in our butterfly for about 5 to 10 breath cycles once we found the edge. And remember, slow, steady, comfortable breathing. If you find that your breaths are short and kind of jagged, it's definitely a little too challenging, and you can always back out and go back in with less intensity. Alrighty, so hopefully, at least by that 5th breath cycle mark, you should feel in these longer holds just an automatic release of the joints. Giving the time and the space to the body enables the body to release past that protective reflex that we have. And oftentimes we're in such habitual modes of holding our body. It's, at these quiet times, these slower times where we're actually focusing our inner eye on what's going on, that we'll notice, oh, we're holding something we don't need to, or we're holding it in a way that's not good for our body. All right. So as we come out, you can go ahead and lean back. If your hips are tight, you might have a little impingement, might feel a little discomfort. So lean back, lift up and in those hip bones. We're internally rotating now, so up and in. Now we can bring the feet down in the chair, and you can just give yourself a little bit of a windshield wipe. If we were on the floor in our butterfly, you can always come out, help the knees come back up, lean back some, help the knees come back up, bring the legs out, and you can bring the hands back and give yourself, again, that little bit of a windshield wipe. Get the glutes, get the hips back massaged. And then the next pose is our figure 4. So you can make your way onto your back. I'll demonstrate that very quickly, but you can also do the figure 4 from the chair, which I will do shortly. So coming onto our back into a bridge position, just make sure when you inhale, you're using either your hands to help lift if you have the weak hips, and you want to help externally rotate that hip before you land that ankle on that opposite knee. And here is where you're going to stay. If your sacrum started to roll off while you were in bridge transitioning to your figure 4, you want to get your bridge back safely onto the sacrum on the mat. And that's what you're waiting for in getting to that edge, finding that, making sure the knee is not winging in. You would just gently hold your hand there just to guide it from collapsing inward. And all you're doing is, again, waiting for the body with gravity's help to just kind of release. And so finding that breath from about 3 breath cycles, 3 to 5, to find that perfect position where you can hold it and breathe your 5 to 10 breaths. So if you're on the floor exploring your first side of your figure 4, go for it. If you're in the chair waiting to find out how to do that, again, get to the edge of the chair. Try not to fall off, but you want to have that pelvic tilt forward at the top of the hips. You want to have the imaginary tailbone sticking out. So you don't want that tailbone sticking under, tucking under the tailbone like we did in chair, because that gives a C curve to the back, to the neck, just ruins your posture. So let's go ahead and lift upright. And then as you're sitting here, if you can bring your knees to a 90-degree position, that's the next thing. Then it may be that, can you lift your foot, and hopefully you have a block. Can you lift the foot like when we were practicing our balance? Can you externally rotate that hip and start to bring that knee, that ankle to the opposite knee? You may have to lean back again if your hips are tight. So you're working on bringing things forward. If your other parts of your body start to move strangely in the transition, that's something to think about. Come back to the original pose and try to get the body to relax. Either that, or maybe it's a little challenging and you can always come out and come back in with a little less intensity. So for here, we're just trying to hopefully wait for this right knee to open up and lower down. Just like when we're on our back, we don't want this knee caving in towards our chest. We want it to open up. So we don't really want to press anything here because we're upright. We're just going to allow gravity to help open up that hip. So this is one way. If you can't make it down to the floor, onto your back, onto a bridge, you can do your figure 4 from a chair. Just may take a little while. Now, if you can't get your ankle onto the opposite knee, you might just be working on lifting this right foot to a position where you can eventually externally rotate that hip and eventually bring this foot closer and closer to the opposite knee. Eventually, you might have your foot standing, your foot resting on a higher version of the block, and eventually getting just that contact point. And here it'll be tight and you'll just need to work through that. And eventually bringing up the torso, bringing up the pelvic tilt. Now we'll go ahead and start to bring ourselves out of this. So coming out of your figure 4, if you're on your chair, go ahead and set up for the other side. You can have your block down here. Start small, see where you can go. If you can lift up this left foot, externally rotating that hip before you can place it onto the opposite knee. And you're just waiting on the hips to open. So it's a work in progress. Eventually you might be able to lift up and the pelvic tilt forward so you can open up this hip. And once you find that you can keep your position, it takes you about 3 to 5 breath cycles, go ahead and breathe 5 to 10 slow breaths. You can relax the shoulders, you can close the eyes. I'll go ahead and demonstrate from the floor. The figure 4 on the opposite side. The nice thing about being on your back is that you can just allow the force of gravity to open up the hips without having to support the upper body as well. It's a different version. It's slightly less demanding on the upper body. Sometimes placing your hands off to the side of your hips, palms facing up, is a nice way to just relax into a bridge pose, especially this figure 4. But sometimes, especially if you have warm hands, placing them on a part of the body that's been achy, whether it's the hips, the knee, shoulders, even the belly. There's something nice about having something warm resting against the body as well, especially on sore joints. And hopefully as you enter the last few breath cycles, you'll be finding release in the knees, in the hips, just things just releasing on their own. And hopefully by the last breath cycle, the body is just melting into the mat. All right, to come out, go ahead and help lift the ankle off of the opposite knee, internally rotating the hip, letting that left foot land, guiding it if you need to. And then you can go ahead, make sure you're on your sits bones. If you're sitting upright in the chair, make sure your sacrum is nice and supported if you're in your base bridge position on the mat. And we're just going to give our knees a gentle windshield wipe on one side. You can savor it, stay a couple of breaths, and then inhale over to the other side. Savor this, a couple of breaths. Then inhale the knees back up. And you can windshield wipe with a little faster frequency if that feels good to you, or slowly, whatever feels good to you at this point. But we are now moving into our Shavasana, so getting nice and long on the mat. Any last minute movement that feels good. Sometimes just extending arms above your head and stretching. Flexing the feet, pointing the toes, rocking from side to side, whatever it takes to allow the body to release and then be completely on its back. I'm going to sit up just to mind the time. But in Shavasana, you're laying on your back. The belly is soft. The feet can be together or they can be kind of separate, like the toes falling apart, and just letting them relax. If you're cold, put a blanket over you. And essentially, allow your body to just relax. Respond to today's practice. It's a time where the mind can wander off, either quietly, or if you find it chattering, difficult to quiet down, just acknowledge it, and then breathe. When you hear the 3 bells, we will awaken.
Bringing the mind back to the body. Take note of sounds outside the room, sounds within the room, and finally back to the breath. Notice how the chest rises with each inhale and how the belly falls with the exhale. And as you reconnect to the body, make movements in the fingers, toes, rock the body. Do what it takes to reconnect to the body vessel. And as you come up to an easy seated position, we can finish class with our alternate nostril breathing exercise, either in a hero pose, as I'm in right now. I'm just sitting on folded knees, untucked toes, in a blanket. Or you can sit with the seat on the floor, one leg out in front of the other, easy seated position or staff position. Let's go ahead and bring the left hand into our chin mudra, right hand into our Vishnu mudra. And again, if this is a hard hand position to hold, you can always keep the two fingers on the brow and close with the right thumb and right ring finger knuckle. Taking a nice deep inhale. Close the right nostril with the right thumb. Exhale through the left. As you fully exhale and draw the belly button towards the spine, engage the core. Fully exhaled. Inhale through the left. Lift up the collarbones. Feel the rib cage expand at the top of the inhale. Close that left nostril. Exhale through the right. Slowly and with control. Inhale through the right. Close. Exhale through the left. Inhale through the left. Close. Exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Close. Exhale through the left. Inhale through the left. Close. Exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Close. Last round. Exhale through the left. Inhale through the left. Close. Exhale through the right. Go ahead and release the right hand. Release the mudras. Let the breath return to its natural state. And bringing hands to heart center. Thank you so much for joining me, Jeani, here at the noontime gentle yoga in the ACC community room. I hope you have a wonderful day. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you, Jeani.
Bye.
It was wonderful. Thank you.